looking at the guidelines, we start with an 8-step journey, literally a narrative to walk you down this path. First, you have to consider what are the aspects of what your company is doing and therefore what the impacts are. Do some stakeholder engagement to find out what is it that your audience, your customers, your employees, stakeholders, shareholders, what is it that they need? From that, as we walk you down the path, we explain to you how you can establish the boundaries of what it is that you're going to report, and then within that, the scope. More or less, let's say you're a global organization, but you're just responsible for the United States business. You may say your boundary is going to be the United States. Within the United States, you may say, we have enough carpet in store that we don't need to purchase anything for another 6 months. You may define the scope excludes carpeting right now because you're not capable of buying either recycled carpet, given the fact that you've got this inventory at present. We would take you through how do you set the boundaries, how do you set the scope, and then from that, those 4 steps, you then create that into a sustainability policy. What is our company's policy with regard to our behavior in this market? Now, there's going to be a gap, probably, between what you're saying is the policy and what you're actually doing, and that's where the plan comes in. How do we get to fulfill what our policy says we should be doing? And then, of course, you implement and you evaluate how are you doing against that plan. Then we have continuous improvement, and then you repeat. And that may be a year process, it might be a 3-year process before you repeat and you go back through that cycle down these steps. The first part of the best practice guidance is here's the journey, here's the 8 steps, here's how you go about it. We then provide specific guidance on the essential areas of our industry. There's guidance on design, exhibit structures, flooring, furnishings, staging materials, lighting, electronic display, graphics and signage, packaging and waste management, supply chain procurement and engagement, logistics, remote and the last mile, traffic management and smart cities, the human element. On the resource side, your commitment, personnel, diversity, equity, inclusivity, DEI, your community and your crew. We wrap it up with energy and sustainable IT, followed by communications and marketing. The guidance is now laid out for you across these 9 sections. We look at flooring. We might have 10 different comments. In standards writing, there are 4 things they call helping verbs: shall, should, may, and can. When we started out, we used the helping verbs, but too many of them we thought were shall. Shall is a requirement. You shall do this. Nobody likes to be told they shall do this. We dropped those helping verbs and moved over to highly recommended, recommended, it may be done, it can be done. As you read this, highly recommended means you really need to be doing this. Recommended is, yeah, you should be doing this, or you may, or you can do that. It isn't a hierarchical structure, highly recommended being the most important. But we also knew that many of us have not taken the first step. We didn't want to say, you need to use this stuff 100% of the time. We're walking you through saying, table stakes should be 35%. So if the guidance says this is highly recommended, that you achieve the first tier of 35%, that's where we'd like you to start out as your baseline. And when you achieve 35, your policy and your plan ought to talk about, we're going to go to 55. And we get to 55, we're going to go to 75. Some of you may already be at 95, which is great. We've designed it so that you can progress on this journey. Here's an example. The phase-out use of foam core. We originally started saying you shouldn't use foam core. And then we said, well, people may have inventory, they have to do that. So we're going to phase it out over time. Foam core, PVC materials, polystyrene. It is highly recommended that companies use new graphics and signage produced on a minimum 35% either recyclable substrate or recycled materials. Okay? Recycled substrate meaning it can be recycled, or you're using materials that have already been recycled. And add those 2 together. Get yourself to, you hit the first tier, what's it going to take to get to 55? What's it going to take to get 75? And then 95. I'll give you a couple of other examples because I didn't want to just pick on those of us who use foam core. Structures. It is highly recommended that companies achieve a minimum 35% of exhibit and meeting room structures, walls, and ceilings are in combination, and here's the 3 R's, either reduced, reused, or recycled. Take those 3 in combination. If you hit 35%, either you reduce it, you recycle it, or you reuse it, you're going to hit the target. And then 35, we want to go to 55, 75, and 95. Similarly, let's look at flooring. it is highly recommended that companies reuse from previous shows a minimum of 35% of exhibition flooring. When the 35% level is achieved, targets should be reset to reach higher levels at 55, 75, and 95. I'll say here, although it's going to come up in another slide, this is going to come out for a period of member comment or public comment, I don't know, 30, 60 days. That's not been decided yet. We need your feedback to tell us 35 is too low, 35 is too high. Or in this area, it's too low, but in the other areas, you can actually bump it up. This is not a done deal yet. It's a work in progress. We expect it's going to continually evolve as market conditions change. But this is where we are today.